my little yarnivores and spiderettes and arachnids. Fiber Spider back again with another tutorial just for you. And today I am delighted to show you a really easy, lovely, lacy knitted stitch called the miniature leaves stitch. Very, very simple. Basically, it is a 4-row repeat. However, two of those rows are just all purl stitches, so it's actually only two rows that you have to actually focus on. Very, very simple, and it's perfect for this time of year if you want to make perhaps a wrap or a throw or just something to dress up your outfit. It's very, very simple. And so for this particular swatch that I did, it was Pound of Love, and I used, I believe these are a size 9, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, these are a size 9 knitting needle. You can use straight needles or circulars, really whichever. And it's really, really quite easy. Now, the reason why this piece is curling at the moment is because I did the pattern as follows. Now, if you wanted to make, say, a wrap or a scarf or what have you, what you could do is frame the piece with more stitches on either side and a couple of rows at the beginning and end in the garter stitch or another stitch like the moss stitch, something like that, so that it doesn't curl. But other than that, it's gorgeous and I love it. Okay, so let's get started with the cast on and the multiples that you will need, and let's get to it. Alrighty. Okay, so for the cast on, we're going to need a multiple of 6 stitches plus an additional 5 stitches. Now, what I was saying before about framing the piece, if you wanted to have X number of stitches on either side to sort of frame it a little bit, that's totally cool. Just make sure that you have the same number of stitches on either side and incorporate that in when you are going to be doing your basic cast on. So start with a slip knot. And for knitted lace, I like to do a knitted cast on. Personally, I think it is a bit more flexible and I think it looks a little bit nicer. So I'm going to be doing a knitted cast on. And I'm just going to show you a couple of stitches and then you're going to do the rest yourself. So basically, after you put your slip knot onto your needle, you go in as if to knit, wrap the yarn around, pull that loop up, and then going around the back of that loop, and you get 2 stitches. You go into that stitch as if to knit, wrap the yarn around, pull the loop up, and then going around the back, catch that loop, you got 3. One more. Going around, pull the loop up, going around the back, and you've got 4. So the base for this particular stitch, like I said, you're going to need a multiple of 6 stitches plus an additional 5. Then if you want to do framing on either side, I would suggest at least 3 stitches on either side. So then you would add an additional 6 for your framing. That's totally up to you, and I'm not going to do it for the sake of this tutorial, but if you're going to be doing a finished piece, perhaps that's something that you may want to consider. Okay, so I'm going to cast on the rest of my stitches, and I will be right back. All right, so I have 23 stitches cast on. I got my multiple of 6, which is 18, 3 times, and then an additional 5 for a total of 23. You need that additional 5 because the little leaves, the little miniature leaves, they are offset. And so when we're doing one of the lace rows, the leaves are going to be in one position, and then on the other, they're going to be shifted over a little bit. that's the essence of the 2-row repeat. Now, to start off, what I like to do is I like to sort of prime these stitches first with a row of purl stitches. Now, if you wanted to, as I said before, sort of frame the piece, I would suggest doing maybe half a dozen rows of either the garter stitch or the seed stitch or the moss stitch. Do that first, but for all intents and purposes, I'm just going to do a row of purl stitches. So going underneath the yarn here and going in through the front and wrap the yarn and then through and off. Purl stitch through the front of the stitch, wrap the yarn around and through and off through the front of the stitch. And that's really all you do for the entire row. And as far as this pattern goes, every other row is all purl stitches. Now, technically speaking, you could make this more of a garter stitch piece, where instead of every other row you do purl rows, you could do every other row with knit rows, and then it would be more of a reversible piece, which is fine, and it wouldn't curl, but the leaves themselves, they would have slightly less definition, which is why I decided to do it as is with the pearls on the one side and the knitted lace on the other. So that being said, we've got our purl stitches there. So I'm going to do the rest of my row off camera with my purl stitches. And the reason why I'm giving you all this information and all these details is because I would like you to know that, hey, yes, you do have options. You can play around with patterns and really make them your own. So I'm going to do the rest of these off camera and I'll meet back up with you for the first row of the actual stitch pattern. There is some prep work, but it's worth it. All right, I'll see you in a bit. All right, now time for the fun stuff. Row 1. Okay, so on the opposite side, I have my purl stitches, and right now we have our knit stitches facing us. So let's start off. For row 1, you start off with 4 knit stitches. 1 and 2, 3, and 4. Okay, now we need to create the beginning of one of our little leaves. So to do that, yarn over, and then we're going to do a double decrease. Now that entails doing a slip, a knit 2 together, and a pass. So you slip the first stitch as if to knit, and then you knit the next 2 stitches together. So going in, into those 2 stitches together, and this is where we have our yarn over, and this is where we have our slip stitch. So you're going to knit these 2 together, around those, and then through, and off, and then that slip stitch, we pass that slip stitch up and over and off of the needle, and that is a double decrease. Now we have a yarn over on this side of the double decrease. We need a yarn over on the other side as well. So yarn over, and then we move on to the next one. So knit 3 stitches, 1, 2, and 3. Then we do another leaf. Yarn over, slip, knit 2 together, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 1 and pass the slip stitch up, over, and off. And then do another yarn over and knit 3 stitches. 1 and 2 and 3. Let's do another leaf. Yarn over, slip, knit 2 together, and pass that slip stitch up, over, and off. Yarn over, and we are at the last 4 stitches, so you would knit those last 4 stitches. And there you go. Okay, so that's row 1. Row 2, and just turn your work over, and you would purl this row. Just all the stitches, just purl all those stitches all the way across. Now, if you wanted to do a garter version of this, right now we're doing more of a stockinette version, but if you wanted to do a garter version, you would be knitting this row as opposed to purling this row. Again, dealer's choice. It's up to you. But I'm going to be purling the rest of this row off camera, whether it is a yarn over or whatever other stitch. Just treat it as a normal stitch that you're just going to purl all the way across. And I'm going to do the rest of this off camera, and I will meet back up with you for row 3. Okay, see you shortly. Okay, row 3. Okay, so taking a look at what we have so far, you can see where this is one of our little leaves, the top of one of our little leaves is, and we're going to need one offset starting right over here. So I'm going to start in with, instead of 4 stitches, I'm going to start off with just 1 knit stitch, and then we'll start right in. So knit 1, and then we'll start in with the leaves. So got the knit 1, yarn over, slip a stitch, knit 2 together, and pass the slip stitch up, over, and off, yarn over, and again knit 3. That gets us to the next leaf. So I yarned over, knit 3, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, next leaf, yarn over, slip, knit 2 together, and pass that slip stitch up, over, and off, and yarn over. Knit 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, yarn over, slip the next stitch, knit the next 2 together, and pass that slip stitch up, over, and off. Yarn over, knit 3, and we've got room for one more. Yarn over, slip a stitch, knit 2 together, and pass the slip stitch up, over, and off. Yarn over, and knit 1. We have symmetry because we started with a knit 1 and then going into the leaf, and we're ending with a leaf and knitting that last stitch. Okay, then for row 4, again, turn your work and purl all of your stitches, unless of course if you're doing the border, as I had aforementioned. So just purl all of your stitches all the way across, and that is a full repeat of the pattern. And of course, yes, I'm going to do these rows again for you because I like to be thorough, always, always. And so I'm going to purl the rest of this row off camera, and I will be back for a repetition of what we've already done. Okay, so I will be back in 2 shakes. 1 second. Okay, row 1 for the repeat. Now, if you put your work down and you're like, all right, now which of the 2 lace rows am I on? Well, if you look closely at your work, you can see that right here, we have an eyelet right there and an eyelet right here. So we started off with the knit 1 and going right into the leaf. Down here, we had knitted 4 and went into the leaf. So because it is an offset pattern, if when you look at your work and you can see that you immediately begin with some eyelets, you would start with a row 1 to get to the 4th stitch over here, okay? So that being said, I'm going to start by knitting the first 4 stitches, and then we will begin our first leaf for the row. So knitting 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yarn over, slip the next stitch, knit the next 2 together, pass the slip stitch up, over, and off, yarn over. Then knit the next 3 stitches to get to the next leaf. So I yarned over, knit the next 3, 1, 2, 3, yarn over, slip, knit 2 together, pass the slip stitch up, over, and off, and yarn over. Knit the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, yarn over, slip, knit the next 2 together, pass the slip stitch up, over, and off, yarn over, and then knit the last 4 stitches because we started by knitting the first 4 stitches. So knit these last 4. There we go. Turn the work, and then you're up to row 2 again. And then, of course, row 2, it's just purl stitches. Real easy. And yep, you guessed it, I'm going to do most of this off camera, but I like to be thorough for you guys. I like spending time with you and making sure that my explanation is thorough. So I'm going to do the rest of this off camera, and I will meet back up with you for row 3. Okay, row 3. Now, again, as far as sort of reading the lace, if you will, as you can see, it is solid here, which means that we need to begin with a leaf, which we're going to knit that first stitch and then go right into making the leaf for this row. So start right in with a knit stitch. And then let's hop right in by doing a yarn over and slip and knit 2 together. And pass the slip stitch up, over, and off, and yarn over. Knit the next 3 stitches. One, 2, and 3. Yarn over, and slip. Knit the next 2 stitches together. Pass the slip stitch up, over, and off for our double decrease. Yarn over, and knit the next 3 stitches. One, 2, 3. Yarn over, slip, knit 2 together, pass the slip stitch up, over, and off, yarn over, knit the next 3, one, 2, 3. Okay, now as you can see, we have 4 stitches left, but keep in mind that we began with a knit 1 and went right into a leaf, which means we have to end in the same fashion. So you may, by accident, be like, oh, I've got 4 stitches left. Let me just knit those 4. Well, as you can see, right below, all those stitches were already knitted in the last time that we went across. So that, again, is something important to keep in mind. So go in for a leaf with a yarn over and a slip stitch, knit 2 together, and pass that slip stitch up, over, and off. Yarn over and knit that last stitch. Ta-da! And then, of course, for row 4, you would turn your work and purl all of your stitches. And of course, what I really like about this is that you can make your work whatever size you want it to be, as wide, as long, however which way you want it. Personally, I think, a scarf would be really lovely, or a beach cover-up, or if you just want a nice, light and lacy sort of throw blanket, this would be lovely for that too. Really, whatever you want to do, especially since right now at the time of filming this, it is spring and it's warming up, but it's kind of slow on warming up, at least around here. So it's nice to have a little something. And right now I'm wearing a winter hat because it's cold outside, let me tell you. All right, so going to purl the rest of my stitches, and then I'm going to show you a very easy bind off. Okay, I'll be right back. All right, my dears, so as you can see, after just 2 repeats, the pattern is really starting to show itself. I think it is gorgeous. Can't say it enough. Absolutely love it. Okay, so when your piece is big enough to your satisfaction, it is then time to bind off. Now, whether it is after doing, a full repeat or whatever, really doesn't matter as long as you just did one of your purl rows and then you are on the side with the knitting facing you, the right side facing you for the bind off. Okay, so the preferred bind off for me, again, because this is lace and you want it to have some nice stretch to it, I like the stretchy bind off, and I've done this a couple of times in videos. Honestly, it is my favorite because I have a tendency of being very, very tight with my bind off. You could, of course, go up a size or 2 in needles if you want. Personally, I would rather just use the same needles and just use a stretchier bind off. So to do that, just knit the first 2 stitches as normal. And then going in through both of those stitches through the front, going to knit those 2 off. Like so. Easy as that. And you knit the next stitch. And then go in through the front of these 2 stitches. Around. Through. And off. Knit the next stitch. Through the front of the stitches. Around. Through. And off. Knit the next stitch. Through the front. Around. Through. And off. And it creates a really nice elastic kind of bind off compared to if you have your 2 stitches and you're just passing this loop over this loop and off the needle. Honestly, I find that this works a lot better. And I used to use that bind off for everything because that's the only one that I knew. And then when I discovered this one, oh heck, for me there was no going back. Because quite frankly, every time I did a bind off, it was so tight that the end of my piece was all puckered. Because also, for me, there was the added stress of, oh my God, I don't want to drop a stitch. I don't want to lose all of my work. So that added to the tension in the stitches, believe you me. But this particular method, I find works really, really well. And you don't have to change your needle size. So as you can see, it's got some stretch to it. You know, it has some elasticity. It's not rigid. And that's only too well what I'm used to, believe you me. So yeah, you just keep doing this all the way across until you reach the last 2 stitches. And you are good to go. So actually, I'm just going to get to the end and I'll show you the last one. Okay? I'll be right back. Okay, so I've just got a couple more stitches left, but I just wanted to finish this up with you guys. So knit that next stitch, pass through the front, around the back, up, over, and through, and off. And then another one. Knit that stitch through the front, around the back, pull it on through, up, over, and off. And this last one. Now, yeah, you're thinking, it's like, all right, how do I do this? Well, knit that stitch, and through the front of those 2, just like we have been doing, through and up, and off. We got that one last loop, no problem. At this point, you would cut your yarn, pull it on out, and sew in your end. Now, as you can see, the cast on and the bind off, one isn't puckered, and it's got some stretch to it. You know, that's what I was talking about as far as elasticity. To me, it's very important, especially with lace projects. Now, yes, it's curling at the moment. I understand that. But, you know, like I said, if you did the sort of the framing that I was talking about before, perhaps adding a couple of rows of garter stitch at the bottom, perhaps a couple at the top, and then a few extra stitches on either side to frame the piece, this curling would not happen. But I was really much more focused on the stitch itself and the beauty of this stitch as opposed to what you could do around the outside edges. But listen, guys, thank you so very much for watching. I hope you found this helpful and informative. I love showing you guys new things. And whether it's knitting or crocheting or audiobook narrations, I love sharing with you guys. So please do hit subscribe for more because I do try to post often, whether it's any of the aforementioned things. And of course, also, there is my gaming channel, my other YouTube channel, Fiber Spider Games. The link is in the description box down below. Please check it out. And of course, the timestamps for the rows are also going to be in there as well. I like to be thorough, you know. So listen, guys, until next time, I want all of you to stay inspired, stay caffeinated, stay stitching, and please, please do stay safe. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I will see you in my next video. I hope you have a great day, everybody, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.